restructuring of Thailand. Okay. Most of them will be like what I see from what people call reading from the lips of the military government nowadays. Okay, but I think we can observe some clear direction on the reforms. Okay, of the fiscal policy of this current government. Let's start first from the reasons that Thailand may need fiscal reforms. That if we observe the data about the fiscal balance of Thailand recently, not that recently, but maybe about 15 years in the past, we can see that most of the government budget has been in deficit for a long time, except for the fiscal year 2005 that we have a small surplus that year. And even the government plans to go back to balance in maybe 2017, but it's still in doubt. If we look at the current figure of the government deficit in the year 2014, you can see that we have about 416 billion baht in deficit. If we look at the structure of the government expenditure, we can see that most of the part of the government expenditure go to the current expenditure budget. Okay. This includes those salaries of the government officers, and as well as those operating costs. And you can see that the proportion of the capital expenditure or the investment part of the government budget has been reduced over time. Right? You can see roughly that it has been reduced from about 26% in the year 2005 into around 17% in the year 2013. And we can observe that even the budget in the year 2015 passed through by the military government, the current government, we can see that there are a lot of constraints put on this budget because we have observed the increase of 50 billion baht of the budget in this year, this fiscal year. But more than half of this extra is on the replenish. I have always problems with to speak this replenishment of the treasury account balance. This is the part that the government has to pay back some treasury accounts that they have used in the past. And actually, we can observe that the total increase of the 2015 budget comparing to 2014 budget is just about 17 billion baht. If we look at the revenue side, we can see that the highest proportion of the revenue, the government revenue, come from tax, and most of the tax, the important sources of the tax of the government composed of the value-added tax, the corporate income tax and personal income tax, and actually we don't have a lot of tax on property base at all, or we can say that the property based tax in Thailand is really slow, it's really small compared to the international standard. And actually the state-owned enterprise contribute just a very small amount for the government revenue. And recently we have observed some interesting activities as well. Those are the off-balance sheet, off-budget activities of the government that many governments in the recent time always use a lot of off-budget activities, including the use of revolving funds. Okay. This is the funds set outside the budget of the government budget. Okay. The special financial institutions, okay. The non-financial state-owned enterprise and the local government units to have some roles in fiscal policy, but you can see that this is not a good way to implement the fiscal policy, okay, because these activities will not be passed through the parliament. Okay, so in this picture you can see that I compare the investment budget or capital expenditure budget between the government and the non-financial state-owned enterprise, and we can observe that in the previous 10 years, okay, these two budgets are almost at the same amount, okay, and many of the capital expenditure of the state-owned enterprise are used as a part of fiscal policy in Thailand. Okay, and at last, if I look at the public debt, okay, we can see that if we compare the figure of Thailand to our neighboring countries, okay, we can say that we are still in the same region. Sorry that the figure is small. Okay, you can look at the sheet and in your handout. Okay. For Thailand, the current in 2013 figure is about 46%. Okay, comparing to GDP, this is like smaller than many countries around us, okay, including Malaysia, Philippines, Singapore, okay, Laos, Vietnam. But the interesting feature is about the dynamics of the debt. Okay, that we have a lot of budget balance, budget deficit, okay, comparing to GDP in recent years, okay, and this will add to the debt, and we can see that the direct government debt, okay, grows at the rate of about 12% each year, okay, in the previous 5 years, and this is a lot higher than the growth rate of the economy. Okay, so if the current situation continue into the future, we can expect that the ratio of public debt to GDP will explode. Okay, there is a need for the reform, okay, and we can observe from the behaviors of NCPOs or the I can say that this is the behavior of the current government, okay, that they have some attempts, okay, to reform this fiscal policy in Thailand. The first one, I look at the expenditure side, okay, and I observe from the behavior of the current government in setting up the 2015 budget, okay, and we can see that there is an attempt, okay, to get rid of the populist policies, okay, of the previous government, okay, and we can observe that from the left-hand side diagram, okay, many of the revolving funds, okay, set to be cut down to zero in this 2015 budget. Okay. This includes what we call National Village Fund or the SML Fund, okay, and the Thai Women Empowerment Fund as well. These are totally get rid off from the new budget, okay, and the extra fund, okay, has been moved, okay, to other parts, including the central fund, the Ministry of Transportation and the Ministry of Defense. Okay. I will not go into the detail of the central fund because this involves some policies of the current government, okay, about we have a major disaster in the northern part of Thailand. Okay. This part will be covered by the central fund in the 2015 budget. we have a policy about government officer moving back to the previous pension system, okay? And this is a part of the central fund as well, and this makes the fund has been increased about 6%. Okay? But I want to focus on the Ministry of Transportation that has been increased in their budget, okay, for about 12% in this fiscal year. And most of them will go to the Department of Highways, okay, Department of the Rural Roads, and the Marine Department. Okay, and most of this budget will go into the capital expenditure part. Okay, so we can observe roughly that some populist policies of the previous government are scrapped, okay, and the fund raised by those getting rid of those populist policy are moved to the capital expenditure part. Okay. The problem will be just that the capital expenditure have always been delayed, okay, in disbursement in any previous year, in any year. Okay, so you can observe that if we see the statistic about the disbursement rate, okay, of these three departments, Department of Highway, Department of Rural Roads, and comparing to the overall disbursement rate of the government agencies, you can say that it has been disbursed slowly, okay, and the disbursement will be speed up at the end of each fiscal year. Okay. But this is because the capital expenditure of these two departments are a lot higher than capital expenditure of the other agencies in Thailand. Okay. That's why we observe this pattern of disbursement of these two departments. There is a major part, okay, that we observe from the data or the statistics that the loans came from the special financial institution, okay, which has been increased, okay, quickly in the previous year, has been stagnant this year. Okay. This comes from this implies part of the fiscal policy that try to depend less on the loans or the laws of these special financial institutions in Thailand. And the most important part of the off-budget part is about the rice pledging scheme, okay, which has been injected into the Thai economy in the maybe previous 3 years, okay, in 2011 to 2012 season, okay. You can this is the data from the Bank of Agricultural Corporation something, okay, BAC, and we can see that in 2011 and 2012 season.
2 minutes.
Okay. We can see a clear picture that they will depend less, okay, on the off-budget activities. Next, come to the tax reform side. Okay. These are from some interviews of the key persons relating to the public fiscal policy in the current government. Okay. We can observe that these are the directions, okay, of the current tax policy, and we can see that the personal income tax and corporate income tax, okay, will be at the same rates, okay, as the current time, but we expect that the personal income tax exemptions and deduction will be reduced. Okay. There is a small possibility for VAT, okay, rate to increase, okay, even next year, right? We know already that the VAT rate will be the same this year. Excise tax law will be consolidated to make it more efficient, okay, and there will be 2 new tax, okay, including the inheritance tax and the land and building tax. Okay, that will be enacted soon. Okay. I have some details of the inheritance tax, okay, and we know from the international experience that the most problems, okay, in implementing this tax is about the collection effectiveness. Okay. We can see that in the case of the United States, only about 2% of the total number of deaths people pay this tax, okay? And the effectiveness is a lot lower than the maximum rate in the law, right? For the property tax, okay, we have the statistics showing that I have the data of Thailand just in the year 2013, okay, and we have about just 0.2% of the total tax coming from property tax base. Okay, comparing to other countries, this is a lot smaller than the other countries. Okay, so we have the NCPO trying to introduce the new tax, okay, that based on the appraised value of the property, okay, and this will be different from the existing system that based on the revenue generated from the property. Okay, so we can see that there is an attempt, okay, to collect more tax from the property base, right? And there is an attempt, okay, to make the implementation of some tax to be more efficient. Okay. We can see this from the consolidation of the excise tax law, okay, that will be put in place soon. Okay. This is the direction of the reform in the excise tax. They will be consolidated. The ex-factory price will be replaced by suggested retail price, and price and quantity will be the same in quoting for the rate of the excise tax. Okay, this is my own opinion that value-added tax in Thailand the rate is quite low compared to the international standard, and we have room to increase the tax rate in this category. Okay. And the case of personal income tax, comparing to the average personal income of Thailand, okay, I use the nominal GDP per employed people to indicate the average salary, average income of Thailand each year. Okay, it is about 300,000 baht per year. Okay, but the current system in personal income tax will automatically exempt people with income at 240,000 baht, okay, per year or lower than that. So we can see that half of the people in Thailand or the employed people in Thailand are automatically exempt from the personal income tax. Okay. And comparing to about 40 million labor force in Thailand, only 10 million submit the filing, and only 3 million people pay personal income tax. All right. I guess that's all for Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for being a good sport. That was a very generous 12 minutes. So I propose that we have the discussant and then a brief chat, and then we go to the next paper so that we can at least discuss this really important topic. Peter, are you the one? Thanks. 5 minutes if possible. Thank you. Wherever you want. Why don't you? Why don't you talk from there? It's probably nicer. Yeah. People can see you and hear you. Thank you.
Okay, I'm Peter Morgan from the Asian Development Bank Institute. I'm delighted to be here at Thammasat University, I should say, for the first time. So let me comment on this paper. So I think the aim of the paper is to describe the prospective budget reforms, which are comprehensively and clearly presented. I think just sort of to summarize the main points. First, the government deficit currently is around 4% of GDP, which is probably a little bit higher than what people would like to see. Normally 3% is what's kind of regarded as the upper end of normal. On the other hand, the ratio of government debt to GDP is stable at less than 50%, although there may be some special factors there, which I'll return to a bit later on. But there are also significant off-budget items, and so maybe if you include those, the deficit could be somewhat higher. And in terms of the expenditure reforms, the main points are to scrap some of the populist policies, particularly in the areas of agriculture, including the discontinuance of the rice pledging scheme, although it's already come down quite a bit, so there wasn't much left. And I think very importantly to increase investment spending, particularly in the area of transport infrastructure. Then on the tax side, reducing the personal income tax exemptions for low-income groups below 150,000 baht, some consolidation of the VAT tax scheme, and then introduction of these two new tax schemes, inheritance gifts and land and building, and particularly the new property tax to be assessed in terms of land valuation as opposed to rent. So I think that's a significant development. So just in terms of a brief assessment of the description, first regarding the implications for the overall budget balance, it wasn't really clear to me. There are a lot of changes, some good things going up and some things going down, but it would have been nice to see some estimate of what overall impact this is going to have on the budget deficit, and are we going to be in some kind of glide path to the zero deficit target as of 2017, and particularly what is the sensitivity of tax revenues to economic growth. Obviously, if growth has been sluggish recently for a variety of reasons, that presumably is going to have a negative impact on tax revenues. In terms of the shifts on the expenditure side, I think the shift from the populist consumption related measures to infrastructure investment should be quite a positive development. Certainly, the declining share of infrastructure in GDP will be something to be concerned about, and certainly we at ADB are very much in favor of increased infrastructure investment to support long-term growth. The impact of the increase in defense spending obviously has something to do with being a military government, I suppose. And the cuts in rice subsidies probably also a positive development. And then on the tax reform sides, I think certainly ending the low-income exemptions should increase tax revenues, but it's not clear how much. You're obviously taxing pretty low-income people at a low rate, so it'd be interesting to know what the expected tax take on that would be. And then as I mentioned, the shift to assessed valuation for property tax should allow improved efficiency of land allocation, because it'll bring the unused land into more high value uses. My only query there is how well will the valuation assessment process work. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of issues there. So just some other questions. As mentioned, what is the likely bottom line impact on the budget deficit, especially looking at a kind of more general, broader general account kind of definition? What's happening with social welfare spending? That's certainly a longer term issue for budget balance in a lot of countries. To what extent will the new VAT proposal give you a flatter tax rate overall? Are there any particular areas of major exemption? And one issue which we just sort of mentioned in passing but not really focused on is the issue of collection effectiveness. Is there a lot of room to improve the efficiency of tax collection? And finally, and this gets back to this issue of the deficit versus the government debt level. It was interesting that even though we had this much more rapid rise of debt relative to GDP, that in fact the debt ratio is stable. That suggests to me that the government bond yield, the cost of debt must be artificially low. There's some sort of interest rate compression going on, and is that sustainable or not going forward? So thanks very much for a very informative presentation.
Thank you. Thank you much, Peter. I propose we have a few minutes for questions. And what I was thinking is that we take all the questions together and then give Pavin a few minutes to answer them. I think that's fair. Please, if you could just identify yourself, only for our sake, please.
Okay, I'm Sukum Matawawutichai. I'm a retired professor here. I wonder when you talk about government reform, one thing that comes into my mind is that the government sector is too big. And I've never heard of any physical government reform. You emphasize on the budget, on the tax and so on. I think the government in Thailand is just like an overweighted person. It's too big and cannot move very well. And because it's overweighted, you need to get rid of a lot of excess fat so that the government can move better. And that is mean that Dr. Pavin shows that the larger part of government budget is earmarked toward fixed salary and so on. So it means that this part you cannot change it. And if you could increase the productivity of the staff in the public sector by reducing the number of employed government officers, and then I'm not sure that if the body is better, you can get rid of a lot of fat, you can move better, faster, and more flexibility. But I don't know whether this kind of question has been raised at all. How to reform the size of the government rather than look at the budget or the tax and so on. I think Thai government is notorious of too many civil servants in the public sector. And if we could reduce that, it will be related to the expenditure side and also the revenue side. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Some other questions? Dean, please.
May I add another issue related to what Dr. Pavin presented? Professor Sum just mentioned about the public sector reform, which I think is very crucial for Thailand in the future. But in order to keep us related to the issue that we have discussed today, that is regional integration, I would like to know that with all the reform in the fiscal sector of Thailand, what is the, after the reform, is it make us the Thailand position is better or worse off compared to the other countries in these regions?
Great question. Anybody else?
For the student, please.
Please, if you can just identify yourselves. Any of the other faculty or students? Professor, what do you think? Please.
Anyone?
Please. You've been volunteered.
Yeah, Brian Kennedy, lecturer here at Thammasat. Do you think that the Thai government can effectively collect these higher taxes? I'm specifically thinking of a land tax, where my experience has been land valuation and actual sale price has very little relationship to each other. And I think that extends further in that particular office. But it just raises a general question.
I think we can take one more question, and then we're still in time because it's 45 when we start the next paper. So, Larissa, come.
So I would like to ask, the plan of this project, we see pictures of what's going on now and what the government and CBO plan to do. I'm not sure this is part of your research project. If you could elaborate more on what you are doing here, that would maybe be helpful for us.
Thank you. So you've got 4 very important questions, and we're going to give you about 3 or 4 minutes. You tend to be elastic, okay?
Right. Sorry. To respond quickly, the first one from just Ku, that whether the government is overweighted or not. I guess that this is from my opinion, that comparing, if we use the statistic like the total government expenditure to GDP, comparing to the international standard, I think that the current level of Thailand is about 80 to 20%, and this is not that big, comparing to other countries. And I'm not quite sure now whether the size of government matter much because we are now speaking more about the composition of the expenditure of the government. Like if they can move from the current expenditure to be more investment related, the big government is all right, but the composition is more important. Okay. About Ajan's question, okay. Clearly, I still don't have the evaluation. Like this is the coming up phase. And to respond to Janice's line as well, that after collecting all the directions, okay, we will see whether this will have positive or negative impacts. Okay. The rough idea is that expenditure of the government has been moved out of the rural sector or rural area because you can observe that the rice pledging scheme has been cut down totally. Okay. Many populist policies, okay, are related to the rural people more than the urban people living in the urban area. So the rough idea is that we expect that rural people will be affected more than the other part, but we haven't seen any clear direction of the impact in the future. For Brian, I agree that we will not have the effective connection for both land, buildings, and as well as the inheritance tax in Thailand. We don't have good enough database to make the implementation effective. Thank you.
And her question about the research plan?
As I said, that will be the next phase.
Well, thank you very much. You've been a great sport. We should give them So we are ahead of time. So now I'm going to ask Natapong to kindly present in 12 minutes. So we get time for chat. And this has been a really great exchange, and we hope we can all benefit from good chat. Thank you, Natapong. 12 minutes.
I have 12 minutes for 71 slides. So let me start. Originally, it's not the whole paper or the detail or the technical details that I would like to share, but I want to share the main results that we have been working with. The first one is the job that we work with the Ministry of Commerce. Second one, actually, we work with you guys, but in Manila. We work with the ORE, the Office of Regional Economic Integration, to develop the capital flows model. The third one is also work with you guys, but also the other team in Manila is the ERD, the Economic Research Department, that we try to simulate the labor flow. So the first one is the example that we try to link the world model, the world trade model, with the domestic Thai model. Second one, we try to expand the single country model into actually it's a global model, the global financial model, which originated from your friends, Professor Iwasa says that he was in ADB. It started actually in 1998 and it's going until now that we keep improving the model. And the last one is to study the migration after the AEC. So let's look at the first one. As I mentioned, it's the cooperation on the work that we work with the Ministry of Commerce, that we try to build a model that explains what will happen to the Thai economy after we enter the AEC. So we use two models. The first one is the global trade model, so it's very common one, GTAP. But GTAP has the limitations. It doesn't have the detail of the local economy, so we try to combine or use a combination with strengthening each model. So we use GTAP and we use the local Thai economy model that we developed this part, the local economy model, which is a dynamic model. So the first one is the the GTAP that we try to chop the model with the tariff reduction that we follow the AEC manuals that after we enter the AEC, most of the community reduce the tariff, and this will be the output of GTAP that become the input for the single country models, and then the single country model will run the dynamic adjustment of the Thai economies, and with this model we can look inside the economy, we will learn the adjustment of the government income, and also one of the most important part that we want to see is the income inequalities. So this is GTAP, the standard one, the latest one that we have, and we aggregate the model into 7 regions, and we aggregated the commodity into 10s. This is the result that we get from GTAP, this column. Surprisingly, my colleagues at the Ministry of Commerce try to compute the average exchange after the first phase of the AEC. This is started in 2010, and we compared the results. It's very close to the result that we obtained from the model. So this will be the input to the local economy model or the single country model. And also from the GTAP, it shows what we learned from the textbook, that if you reduce the tax just for the group of the Asian countries, it's just benefit. It's the bigger Thai neighbors. It's benefit only in Asian, but it's hurt outside of the world, the other part of the world. So this is the result that we get. But anyway, the total export is around 1.3%. It is close to previous work, the number that this legislature has introduced. So the next part is to put that input into the Thai model. So this is the structure of the Thai model. So it's the system of nonlinear equation that try to capture the transmission mechanism. So if we chop the export, it will induce the production, and then it will increase the demand for the intermediate input, and then it will induce a higher demand for the labor and also for the raw materials. And this will be the most important link, that when the demand for labor increases, this will affect the whole household income. So in this part, we actually have the detail for the 5 categories of the household, and then this will increase the domestic consumption, and this will increase the domestic demand for commodities, and finally it also affect the import, that will increase the import. This will also affect the income of the government, and this will improve the balance of the budget. And then finally, we have the complete adjustment inside the economy from this model. To check that my model is okay, because when we present this to the policymaker, one easy question that we get is, they ask me how can we trust the model? So that's simple questions. But this is my attempt to validate the model. So this is the part of the Thailand GDP, the real GDP. So this is the projection of my model, this dash. So it's replicate the national potential growth in the past 10 years. So past 10 years that the national potential growth is around 4.5%. So my model projected the economy starting from 2010. So when we run the model, we need to input this number into the model. Is the assumption about the growth of the labor, the growth of capital, depreciation, and the productivities. And then we have to put the assumption of the minimum consumption, the government expenditures, investment, export. And this will be the output from the model. So I selected just the key variables, and it's represent most of the main adjustment of the main macro variables. So we did 3 simulations, the business as usual, and then the second one is the assumption that we join the AAC. The last one is the extension that we also include the case that we increase the productivities.